Hello, guys. My name is Paul, and you're welcome tonight. This is another edition of ABPA Live Share. So today, I have something very serious to discuss, something that I believe concerns education, especially, and all the stakeholders of education has to, arise to this situation that I believe is very, very important. And that's why I have traveled far to Africa, to Asia, and to Europe to bring these guys. They are, one of the best brains that I currently know. So I want them to be able to help me in this discussion, in this kind of debate, So first of all, I'd like to introduce to you Mr. Tade Daniel Omotosho. He is currently resident in Poland. He's a businessman. He's an assistant professor. Anyway, you get time to hear from him. And then I present to you Abibadan. Abibadan is a law student. He's a writer. He has currently written about 4 or 5 books published. So, and he's been developing himself in the skill of public speaking. And so he will be dissecting this issue with me today. So, Mr. Tade, please, can you please introduce yourself? Thank you.
Okay, good evening, everyone. It's nice to be on this program this evening. My name, once again, is Tade Daniel Omotosho. I'm based in Poland. I'm a consultant, a coach, a trainer, as well as a lecturer at the Vistula University in Warsaw. I was trained as an accountant, but after a couple of years practicing as an accountant, I decided to move my career into the field of marketing. I moved into business consulting and outsourcing. So I have quite wide experience in the area of business and as well as education as well. Because currently I lecture in the university and I'm accustomed, to the academic field. So I think it's a pleasure to be here this evening, and I hope we'll be able to rub minds together and exchange ideas. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tade. I am so glad that I have someone that is so experienced in the field of education, in the field of business, and especially personal development. Yeah. So, Abibadan, may we meet you?
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Here's Abibadan. So basically, I'm a first law student from Amity University, and I'm pursuing BA-LLB honors, a 5-year law degree. So basically, I'm a poet, a law student, a YouTuber, a manner, and being interested towards innovation in everything I pursue in my life. I actually intend to move towards that, which is actually important for all of us. So it's actually a nice gathering to have tonight, and I'm grateful to Mr. Paul for having this opportunity, and really it would be a nice thing. So basically, as it comes to me, who I am, I have told. But when it comes to education, it depends on the whole experience how you all have. So it's a never-ending experience. It moves on from generations to generations. So it's all about that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So the topic before us tonight is school education versus real education. Beloved, I have been researching on this topic for a while now because I am keen to know, why people go to university, people go to school, starting with the beginners class, maybe nursery, primary, secondary, and the university. Some people, I've even met people who have, more than 1 degree, But sometimes when you talk to them, you can almost say this is an illiterate. So, and I got curious, what's happening? And then if I look at myself, at some point, I actually think I was also ignorant of so many things that happens in the world that I live, until I began to take conscious efforts, to discover myself, to improve on myself, to discover some other areas of my life, of my personality that I was ignorant of. And so that's why I've been talking about this. I've been writing about it. I mean, if you, by the time my book is out, that's the first thing you see on the first page of it. And I've actually shared it with my guests here tonight. And I'm sure they agree with me in that it is a thought-provoking topic. And, coupled with that, Mr. Tade here has written just something that I can almost say it's interwoven, right? He has shared it with me. He published his book in, I believe, December, right?
Yes.
Okay. So after the introduction, since I'm the host, I guess it's better I just relax and allow you, my guests, to do justice to the topic tonight. So I'm going to be starting my question with Mr. Abibadan.
Yeah.
I would say, in your own language, in your own understanding, what do you understand by education? How would you describe education?
Yep. So in the end, when it comes to define education or actually know what education is, there is no straightforward answer. But yes, it can be contextualized in the way as it has been like a system to make literacy more cogent, to spread it in the way as it is conceived. So if we go to any time, literacy has been the key factor of consideration which actually every civilization has made. So when it comes to awareness is a very, very different thing. But literacy is all about thinking. So when you perceive literacy, you make up the system of education. So likewise, if I just come to the topic itself, to be more specific, I just understand that when it comes to education at school and when it comes to realistic education or real education, the diversity among them is actually so big that the gap is unprecedented. So what the thing is that if we just go out education, there is no sui generis definition. But I consider that yes, there must be a matter of understanding of how things go on and how the perceptibility of things and people must be carried forward. So yeah, there is no absolutism, but yeah, this is my view.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you so much. So
Yep.
let's go to the teacher, to the the professional. All right, sir. How would you describe education?
Yeah, well, I think I like what my friend said earlier, that it might be quite difficult to give a very specific definition to education. I absolutely agree with that. But I think I would like to take us back to the etymological definition and the etymological concept of education, where that word, education itself, came from. Education is a Latin word, which in fact means, it was called educare or educatum or educatus. Those are the Latin words that was, translated into the education we have and we call today. Which actually means to bring out or to nourish or to care for. Or simply put, that is from the etymological concept, the etymological definition of it. However, when you look at the glossary or when you look at the dictionary meaning, it says that education is a systematic way of impacting the mental development of an individual. Okay, so it's a systematic way. And that's why we call it education system. It's a systematic way of impacting the mental development and, of course, the behavior of an individual. You know, to some extent, it could also involve, you know, moral character, developing moral character, as well as, you know, training and professional development. All right. Now, but if we talk about real education, now looking at it in two ways, because for me, I think education can be formal, can be informal as well. All right. Yeah. Now we might tend to most of the definition I gave, they are more tilted towards academic education. All right, which is the systematic way of developing the mental, you know, capacity and things like that. But when we look at what the informal education is, which I would call in this way real education, I think it's more about the acquisition of relevant knowledge or relevant information, okay, and the ability to put that information into work, into use. So it means at that point we are moving from just theory, okay, to being practical. All right. Now I'm sure we'll still go deeper into that. There's an Indian guy, an Indian monk that I like. His name is Swami Vivekananda. Okay, an Indian monk, and he said something interesting. He lived in the 19th century, and he said that education is actually, you know, the manifestation, okay, of the perfection that is already in a man. I'll take that again. He said education is the manifestation of the perfection that is in a man. And that tells us that education should be great effort, okay, to bring out the best in an individual, all right, to make that person be the best that he can be. Okay, that's the way I look at it. Let me stop there for now, so I won't go further into some of the questions that will come up later.
All right, thank you so much. That's deep. I guess that shows that I truly do have credible.
That's a matter of interest for sure. And as it moves on, we actually go to a more pragmatic aspect. So, yeah, I didn't intend to describe that, but yes, I would like to encourage in that way which is necessary. So, there is no straightforward question from my side, but just a matter of contention. So, there is just a hypothetical conjuncture for sure, which I would like to ask. When we talk about school education, we go to the pragmatic aspects, that a person should be like that for his own practical development, the applied matter of concern.
Can you hear me?
Does the applied matter of concern lay that thing on that person which is required as such? Is it that real which is required? Means this is the thing which is not at the time present.
Yeah.
So that's
I think we'll get back to that. Let the host continue with this question. We'll get back to that. Yeah.
Okay.
Let the host ask his question.
So Abibadan, can you hear me? Hello, Abibadan, can you hear me? You cannot hear me? Abibadan, can you hear me? Oh, okay. Mr. Tade, can you hear me?
I think we lost him. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but the host is not audible.
Oh, you're not hearing the host. Okay, Mr. Paul, he can't hear you, but I can hear him.
But
yeah,
I can
you
hear
are
him.
audible. Yeah.
I can hear him.
But he can't hear you.
You can hear me now. Abibadan, can you hear me?
Yeah, Abibadan, can you hear him? Can you hear the host?
Not yet.
Okay, but he can hear you.
I can hear
Okay.
you.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Check your,
Can you
check
both?
your headset. Check your
He's
headset.
asking you to check your earphones.
Yeah, I have fixed it. I fixed it.
Okay,
It's
but
fine.
I can hear you clearly.
Okay.
Okay, so
Can you?
maybe you relate the question to me, and then I can pass it to him.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay.
So
Yeah. If
Okay. Yeah.
my question would
So
be,
let us do it that way. So
I want
when we
you
talk about the
to
practical
distinguish.
aspects, is
no,
there?
hold on, Abibadan. Hold on,
Yeah.
Abibadan. Hold on, Abibadan. Yeah, Mr. Paul, you go ahead with the question, and then I will
Okay,
pass the question to Mr. Abibadan.
okay.
Okay.
My question would have been, you guys have mentioned the difference between formal and informal education. But now, before we go there, I want us to first of all clarify the difference, which is the main question. I want us to first of all clarify the difference between real education and formal education.
Okay, so Abibadan, now Mr. Paul wants you to clarify the difference between formal education and real education from your own perspective. All right?
Okay. Okay. So formal education, according to me, is just like a very limited sort of thing. In Hindi, we can say "koop manduk." Now, "koop" means well, and "manduk" means a frog. So we can say just like a well from which a frog cannot just jump at such a level so that it could come out of the well. Same is the thing with we can say formal education, as it has been much embraced due to the wake of the industrial evolution in the 1750s, and so the trend has been followed, but in a more refined way. Formal education is just like a mere structure which is formed out there with some presumptions out there how learning is to be imparted to people. And when it comes to real education, it is just like a universal set which is not never exhaustive and never exclusive also. But yes, we can say that it is a more concise, or we can say not only concise, but yeah, more cogent way to to make learning more accessible. Now, the accessibility is not only defined by the resources that we have, but also the way that the resources are utilized. So there is actually a very thin line between them. Means what happens that in formal education, if you go to a very simple example, if you just teach people how to draw a triangle, it's fine. But it's just like they know how to draw the triangle in that own pattern. They just don't know the other patterns. They can't just innovate them in their own way. So such a simple example has been taken. Likewise, and we can say in mathematics, if you just teach people calculus, that okay, this is differentiation, this is integration, and it is done. But people if are not that cogent to actually innovate in that own academic, we can say, raw material which they have acclaimed, and by that they can actually create their own applied things which are required, such as there is a notion in our country pertaining to the legal system. In our law schools, there's such a wrong thing which has been implemented, not only in our law school, but in all the law schools of India. I hope so. If it isn't, then it is fine, but actually it is observable. So what is found is that we are actually leaning towards the common law sort of thing. Means we have to either mug up, or we have to just over rely on whatever the judgment is there, or whatever the statute, or whatever the code is there. But actually this is not law. There have been extensive cases where we have to arise out of judgments. We have to arise out of whatever has been written in the law itself. That is why there are so many exceptions, so many deep matter of concerns in human rights, in fundamental rights. There has been a great judgment on privacy like that on 24th August 2017. So we can understand that actually they seem to be like the same, but actually they're very, very different when it comes to the applied aspect of realization.
That's brilliant.
Great.
Thank you. Can you still hear me?
No, he can't.
He cannot.
Yeah, he's
Hello?
not.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah,
Maybe
he's asking you if you can hear him.
use the two earphones.
Yeah, please.
Use the two of them.
He's asking you to use both earphones. Yeah? Can you try? Maybe that's going to work.
That is okay, but actually the left one is not working all right, and that's the issue. That is why I've been just reliant on the right one. That's the point.
Okay. Anyway,
I understand,
that's good.
but the left one is not currently working right now, and that is why I've been just using the right one. That's the coincidence.
All right. No issues. Let's proceed. Now, Mr. Tali.
Yeah.
I believe you can hear me, sir. Can you hear me? Hello?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
It is audible. It is audible.
Oh, okay. Okay, now. So for Mr. Sadi, I want you to please clarify the difference between formal and informal education, and how does it impact the life of a student?
Yeah, I think for me, to start with, talking about formal and informal education, there's one of my favorite poets or statesman, Mark Twain. Now, he said, don't let your schooling in with your education. And for me, that is a very deep, statement that tells us that there is a difference between going to school, okay, and being in a more larger sense, being educated. Now, you find out that you can go to school and still not be well educated. That's why those are the kind of people we call, educated derelicts. These are people, even though they went to the school, but they have no education. So,
excuse me?
Yeah.
I think one of you have their phone on.
Sorry?
You have your life there.
No. I have nothing on. Nothing is on.
Please help me ask Abibadan. Maybe his phone is on and he's talking back.
I have nothing on here.
Let me ask from Abibadan.
Okay, Abibadan, can you check? Do you have something on? Do you have your Facebook on or something else on there?
Well, it's not.
Okay, I think it's better now. Now it's better.
Yeah, it's better.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, yes, I was saying that, school education is different from real education or self-education. And I'll give an example how I understand it. Now, in English, we say, give a man fish and you will feed him for a day. Now we say, teach a man how to fish and you will feed him for a lifetime. Now, I want to draw a parallel line with that expression and what formal education is and what informal or what self-education is. Now, for me, academic education or formal education is like, giving fish. All right? At best, it is like teaching how to fish. Now, the problem with that expression, give a man fish and you feed him for a day, teach him how to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. Look at it, listen, very important. Even after you teach him how to fish, what if the owners of the fish farm or the pond does not allow him to fish? With me, give a man fish and you will feed him for a day. Teach him how to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. Now, what if the owners of the fish pond or the fish farm doesn't allow him to fish? So the teaching you've given him is still not enough to empower him to be independent. to be able to, fish, as it were, because he might get to the fish pond and they might not disallow him. So what I say is this: teach a man how he can make his own fish pond. And I think for me, that's a clear definition. I feel when you are self-educated, when you self-develop yourself, you scale up to a new height beyond just knowing how to fish. You get to the realm of knowing how to create your own fish farm. And for me, that gives, a very clear definition. Now, I can also give you another illustration that gives me the difference. Now, there are people who draw the map, literally. There are people who interpret and people who read the map. What you get in a formal education is simply how to read the map, not how to draw the map. So I feel self-education or informal education is far, far more superior, far, far more important than education, than academic education or formal education. For example, many people will tell you, oh, Steve Jobs was not educated, Bill Gates was not educated, Mark Zuckerberg was educated. These guys are very well educated, but guess what? They did not have formal education. What they had was self-education. And this is the education that is superior. This is the kind of education that can bring out the best individual, that can make that individual to become the best. All right?
Yes.
And that's the way I see the difference between formal education and self-education or informal education.
That is brilliant. That is brilliant. Now,
considering this, I humbly believe that there is one better example, more interesting example. Actually, these are good examples. Means from our country, I would like to. There are a lot of people but I would like to just mention a few of them. So two of them are poets, and one is a mathematician. So one was a poet in English literature who was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1913. He was the first Asian to acclaim that. He was Rabindranath Tagore. So when it comes to his education sort of matter, he was also not under the purview of formal education. He used to study under self-education in Shantiniketan, his home, and he was a dropout. Even Srinivasa Ramanujan, who did not acclaim that sort of formal education which we actually find in terms of any student who actually studies any subject, in just a general example. And he was only a bachelor's in mathematics, he's a BSc sort of, in Cambridge Trinity College. But it was just like for a matter of formality, because he was one of the greatest geniuses of all these times. Even professors like G.H. Hardy, Littlewood, and Howard actually acclaimed and recognized the, we can say, the greatness of what Ramanujan represented. So it was not like the education which actually was as formal as we tried to make as a matter of presumption, and okay, it would be like that. So yeah, and there is one more great example, Suryakant Tripathi Nirala. So he was a Hindi poet. He was not that educated as like formally educated, we can say. Like we have Chetan Bhagat, who was from an IIT, but he became a writer. Or we can say Shashi Tharoor, Dr. Shashi Tharoor, who was in United Nations. Then he actually became a charity minister in the Indian government, and then became, and he is actually a recent member of parliament from Thiruvananthapuram in India. So he was actually this is a matter of fact that formal education is actually just like a layer. It exists as such, and I accept that. But yes, there is a matter of question which I would like to address, because if we are just discussing here and yes, we are moving forward, it is a matter of fact which comes into my mind tonight, that if we know that that there is a very good demarcation and a difference between what the history has actually taught us about education, then why is it that we have not changed it much? Because this is the matter of fact which is, not existent thereafter. So that's the issue which we should now consider. I hope so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I'd like to, Abibadan, can you hear me?
So in the end, I require if you please proceed. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Abibadan, can you hear him?
Yes, yes, yes. Is it audible? Yeah, it is audible.
No.
You can hear me?
I mean, can you hear Mr. Paul?
Yes, I am hearing you. Yeah, it is audible.
No, can you hear Mr. Paul? Can you hear
No,
Mr. Paul? Not me.
Paul is, I think, barely, means very less, means.
You cannot hear me. Okay. See, you wait for my question, okay?
Let's just try. Yeah.
Okay, so I think he's saying that you need to wait for his questions. All right?
Okay. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you wait for my questions. All right. So I was going to actually ask you how you, as a youth, I want to know how you think you can self-educate yourself. Since we've been talking about, according to Mr. Tade, he said self-education is the best. Can you hear that?
Okay. Let me relay the message to Mr. Abibadan. Okay. Mr. Paul is saying that you as a youth, as a young person, how can you self-educate yourself based on what I said, that self-education is more superior to school education or academic education? So you as a young person, how can you self-educate yourself, or what do you think about that?
Okay. If you just think about that, then there is not a solution. But yes, thinking is the biggest step to proceedings to anything else. So yes, I may intend to give my own example, and I would like to give more as what can be there a solution. So let us just consider the situation in India. What is happening all right? So we are under a perception that after passing class 12, we need to qualify in competitive examinations, which are actually barely entrance tests for various, we can say, institutes such as the IITs, the NLUs, or the IIMs. So what happens in general that actually we were under a perception when we were in class 12. So I was a science student, a PCM student, but I pursued law, because I loved law for the matter of fact that my analytical skills were utilized in that field. And now I'm in love with the law. So what happened that I also gave entrance tests, and I got a good score, but that was not much to go to the cutoff or go to that ranking to actually qualify for the national law universities, which are actually the NLUs. So I just thought that, okay, I have not qualified. Now what happens generally in our nation, that nearly lakhs of people, means you can say 500,000 sort of people, who are actually youth, indulge into entrance tests. Now why do they indulge? Because actually all need the seats of all those IITs and all those recognized institutions by the government of India. Okay, they have good education, they may give good placements, but still that doesn't make us any sense. So what happens is that somehow the vacancy issue is also there in our country when it comes to the responsibility of the state itself. And yes, there is an issue pertaining to the people itself, means what the youth are being given in their minds as a pill or a capsule, that actually after classing 12, you have to go to an IIT or a recognized institution like that, or you have to just drop for 1 or 2 years and just waste your life. Okay, dropping is a matter of fact, which is a different thing. But in the end, what happens that if we have a great population, like in a developing country, we have. Now, China is a developed country, so I don't want to quote China's example, but still for my consideration, India's example. So what is our problem is that the utilization of population is not accurately distributed. So if there is a solution I would like to give, the best solution is what actually I did. Now what happens that I've observed that we, the Indians, are going to the lust of getting degrees and degrees and degrees. So I'm just telling you a very funny incident you would laugh, I hope, that even it has been a disastrous condition of our country that even a PhD, a research scholar, is now at the job of a peon in our country. Why is it? That actually, even if you're getting the degree, you're not working so hard, so consistently, you're not getting the real education. So yes, it is the fault of the institutes. So if we just go to blame the government, there is no solution. Because what the problem is that there's a matter of politics of mass. The government knows that actually reservations on the basis of caste and religion are created such that people are accumulated. So if we just need to stop that, it just depends on our perception. We need to get out of the box. That's what Nehru said, the first Prime Minister of India, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. He said that socialism, which is embraced in our country, which was embraced in our country, now it is sort of, a different sort of thing, even in a democracy like India, that socialism is a matter of fact to just make people out of social and cultural bandages. Now, I'm not an advocate of socialism, but we can just evolve with an idea from this that what happens is that we are, in a sea, or we can say in a cluster of a lot of layers: culture, religion, psychological constraints such as family issues. Economic issues are there, but I don't admit economic issues are such a big matter of fact, because even though one of the great presidents of our country, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, was a son of a peasant, someone who used to catch fishes, so that guy. So it is not a matter of money. It just depends on consistency. Now, there's a very recent issue in India, in the capital of New Delhi, in our country, that lakhs of students who actually tried or actually applied for the SSC examination. Now, this is for enrollment in the government services. What was observed that a huge lot of them gave the examinations, but there was some scam which was exposed. They were due to reservation that a lot of people were not accommodated, and the vacancies were decreased by the government. Now, this was a strategy, but it was done in a way of politics. So, in India, if we want to have a solution, there can be one thing to do. Don't rely on government services. This is for those who are majorly involved or actually relied on government services or government institutions, because that's the tactics that the government is doing. Second thing, what we need to do that if we are just not relying on state institutions, we need to be more entrepreneurial. We need not to be of a managerial thinking. In India, what is happening that people just want administration, or they just want employee sort of thing. They just want to sit there and work for a 9 to 5 and it's done. No, it's not the matter of that. What the truth is that actually we require, in a way that everyone's innovation makes him do what it is actually enabled to do. Like Sachin Tendulkar cannot sing because he does not intend to sing, nor does he say that actually he is that sort of talent. Now, you can't expect Kate Winslet to be a lawyer unless Kate Winslet does it, right? You can't expect Antonio Guterres to be somewhat like a vendor, the Secretary General of the United Nations, right? So everyone has a role to play, right? How is the role affirmed? Just by the individual aspect. So, for example, India must do it. So I hope this is a better thing to elaborate for how the world should do, right? Means even the US is embraced for many things, but the US does not have a good education system. Although I do not want to talk about the US education system, because I would like to more infer about my country, because there are a lot of examples to ponder upon. But yeah, this can be a perfect solution, that perception and reliance are actually adequately managed by each of the individual, every one of them, so that this problem solves, because this is the thing for all.
Okay, see, Mr. Tade.
Yes, sir.
I think Abiba Adan make an elaborate explanation, so much so that it deviates from my question. All right. My question was.
Can I relate that to him? Let me relate that to him.
You as a youth, how do you self-develop yourself? How do you self-educate yourself?
Okay, so Abibadan, Mr. Paul is asking you that as a youth, okay, how do you self-develop yourself? How do you self-educate yourself? So he's asking you to go straight to the point. Yeah.
Okay, to be more specific for an individual purpose, right? So let us take an example. More easy, more concise, more clear, more flexible, more interesting. So what happens that, there is a culture called Model United Nations, a very known culture in Europe and other countries, even in India, a big culture. So there's a simple education of how self-education moves on. Now, if you just need to study for an MUN, you need to do research, and you need to have public speaking skills. Both of the things are actually much important for a Model United Nations conference when you represent a country. So what I found that when I was studying such limited subjects of law like contract law, law of tort, like these things, and I just didn't know a penny of international law. What I did as a youth at the age of 18, that I just started exploring. Now, how does it begin? It depends on focus. The biggest thing is focus. If you have to find the meaning or the context of any statement, say, just for example, A is B, very simple, but yeah, let us consider. Then find what is A, find what is the reliability of is, and find the meaning of B, and find the latest collection. So how will you do it? It just depends on yourself. It is said that we don't have resources. Actually, we have resources. But yes, opportunity is the matter of concern. So what I did is that I just didn't use a lot of resources like that. Means, just going into Google and like that. Now, yes, so what I did, I just thought to research on the crisis that has been happening for 7 years in Syria. So how did I do that? I just went to Google and I just typed Syria crisis. Right. I just got a good summary out there. And then I just understood what to do with it. Read it. I read it. Then I found that what the content has been described is actually done by those people who already know a lot, and they have actually tried to make it like a very thin jewelry. Means everything minutely just prescribed and kept. Now this is, I'm not referring about a truth and whatsoever the controversy that are kept, but it's just for a matter of academic learning. Not only academic learning, but personal learning. So there was a girl known as Malvika Raj from India, who actually now is in the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in the United States, who has never been to formal schooling. She has never done her class 10th boards. Neither did she do the class 12th boards, and she is now at MIT. Right? She was not accepted by the IITs, the National Institute of Technologies, and even the IISc Bangalore in India. But she was accepted by the best of the best. So what happens that intuition is the best thing to do. Now there cannot be a simple solution, but by exemplification I would like to move on. But as what happened with me, it was never easy to start learning. When I just learned that, okay, this is the particular thing they have stated, it was never easy. Means it was like never a piece of cake, it was like a tough cookie to crack. So when I just went through, it was tough. I just thought, okay, what did I understand and what did I remember? Then I tried to analyze it. And how does the analysis power comes? It comes from curiosity. So if I just go to a crowd and say to people, you should have curiosity, that is not a solution. Curiosity arises from the very premature stage of your life. But yes, when you are at a middle stage, when actually you are not provided with those things which you were provided, even I was not much provided like that. I was not at advantage. Means all this under way of understanding and all this came from my own perspectives, and yes, thanks to my parents, I actually feel gratitude for that. So to the point, what happened is just like writing poems. I was inclined towards just expressing something. So when it comes to matter of expression, you should understand how to express. When it comes to how to express, there actually comes out purpose. Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Facebook, actually the co-founder of Facebook, advocated this. And I embraced that. That actually this should happen. This is the matter of fact which we are losing right now. So, yes, what we need is perception, clear perception, purpose. Then we need to have action. Action with a target, but not that a target to just be so ambitious that actually you don't realize who you are in the practical aspect of yours today. That you can realize with your own growth. That is why self-study is often said as more higher than the formal education concern, and it is more interesting. So yeah, that's my point.
Thank you so much. That's a lot of information there. You talked about analysis, analyzing skill, and then curiosity, and then, try to examine things in your own perspective, that is to personalize it. And you mentioned the fact that self-study is not easy. So I want to go to the teacher now. So before you get to where you are now, I want you to do a kind of flashback, if possible. How did you become what you are now? How did you learn what you know now? All right, and comparing both the ones you learn in the normal school setting and the ones that you learn on your own.
Sorry, I didn't get that. Is that for me or for?
Yes, that's for you.
Okay. I didn't hear all the questions. It was breaking a little bit, but I think I can manage. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you cannot,
you said how?
I said if you can do it, you kind of flashback. All right.
Okay.
When you were developing yourself, how did you do it? I want you to mention or itemize practical steps that you took. All right, practical examples of how you developed yourself to who you are today. And I want you to actually specifically mention the impact of the formal school, formal education, and the informal education. So separately like that, using personal examples.
Okay, so to start with, I would just want to reiterate and emphasize how important self-development is, or self-education is. Now, why I'm saying this is because, you see, the most important things in life, we will never learn in the four walls of the classroom. Okay, I'll say that again. The most important things in life, we would never learn in the four walls of the classroom. So it becomes important that we seek, okay, deliberately, that we seek for other sources of relevant information. All right. So in my case, I think early as a teenager, I had a lot of people around me who were role models, right? Whom now you can call, let's say, coaches or mentors. Okay, so as I began to watch these people, I saw the kind of books they read, I saw the kind of people they listened to, and I started to be interested in similar path. All right. So for me, I remember very well. Then back while I was growing up, there was a particular bookshop where they created the avenue for young people to come and borrow books and read. It was a bookshop. They were selling books, but they gave the possibility to come over there. They had free rooms where you could go and pick up books and read, or where you could even watch videos and things like that. Then it was the days of VHS and things like that. So these were some of the opportunities I took advantage of. And I think particularly also attending conferences and seminars. You know, there are conferences and seminars where you attend, and some of the content, some of the things you learn there, they are far, you can't compare some of their academic knowledge to it. And that's one. But I think the most important of it is the deliberate effort to seek new and applicable information. So we must get out of our comfort zone. We must get to study, to read, to do research, and to be intense about it. So there is no other way out to self-educating yourself apart from being, very, very apt and very sensitive. And I think I like one of the definition of education given by one guy. He said, education is the ability of the human spirit, okay, to experience its environment, to question it deep enough to find the options that exist in it, and then to know the one to embrace as a matter of supreme importance and urgency. So I think for me, it's a question of being sensitive to your environment, creating that curiosity within you to want to know about things, okay, and taking out deliberate step to sit down, to work hard, to become a workaholic, okay, in studying, in reading, especially in the area, you know, of your passion, in the area of your personal, as we say, personal pursuit, you know, diligent at studying. And that's the wonderful thing is, you know, when you acquire information, when you feed your mind with this information, someone say your brain expands, but guess what? It never shrinks. Okay, it never shrinks back. So I think that's what self-development does. For me to be who I am today, I think it was a set of deliberate sets of action, you know, that I took. I had to attend meetings, I had to have mentors, I had to go to seminars, I had to read several books, you know, I had to do several assessment tests. And I think that is a summary of who and what I have become today. Deliberate efforts. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I think we lost Abibadan.
Yes, I can see he's frozen here.
Yeah. Okay, I can't even see him at all from here.
He's frozen
Anyway,
on my screen here.
Okay. I can't see him at all here. He's not in the lobby. Anyway, we just continue.
Yeah.
I want to hold you on a few things that you mentioned. You mentioned role model. You mentioned studying, being sensitive, and wanting to know. That's curiosity. And then you talked about working hard. That is in your area of study. And you mentioned the area of studying in the area of your interest and being deliberate about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, for somebody like you, you do have role models, all right? But I want you to, as a teacher, as an educator yourself, I want you to give an advice to those who does not have role model, so to say, people who don't have people they can directly look up to. You have people who you can directly look up to, people who can share the materials that help them with you. But there are people, there are youth out there who want to, but there is no role model. There is nobody that they know who is up high there that they can look up to. What's your advice for such people?
Yeah. To start with, I think you know, the challenge we have, especially with the youth of today, you know, I want to start with that background so that I can proper. The challenge we have with the youth of today is not a matter of you know, resources or a matter of inavailability of books, or I think it's a problem of being resourcefulness. Okay. Which I would attribute to, I would say, lack of the willingness and the drive, okay, to break out of the limits and the boundaries where life and circumstances have put them. Now, it is so easy to find role models. Somebody might be thinking, oh, but you know, I don't live in a big city where I would be opportune to see role models or mentors. No, that's not what we're talking about. You see, the secret of great men is in their stories. You don't need to go far. That's why I said the problem is not resources or resourcefulness. There are thousands of books in the libraries. There are thousands of materials available online. There are thousands of inspiring stories in newspaper. They just need to do is step out of our comfort zone a little bit, stretch ourselves a little bit, and then we will begin to see those things. As long as your mind is set to achieve it, you know, people don't get to realize it that our mind, our life, it moves in the direction of our dominant thoughts. So if you are preoccupied, now, don't get it wrong when I said hard work. When I said hard work the other time, I meant working hard in a smart way. Okay? So, you know, all you need to do is set your mind at it. Put your mind at it. I want to achieve this. I want to get a role model. Be preoccupied with it. Become it. And there is a way, you know, there's a way nature, there's a way the universe works. It's called the law of attraction. Definitely by either by circumstances or by chance or by accident or by divine orchestration, somehow you will get to stumble on someone or on something that will connect you to that thing which you desire so much to have. So it's always possible. We may not know how, but we know that it's possible. So role models are available. All you need to do is stretch yourself a little bit. Mentors are everywhere, looking for people to be mentees, and if you set your mind at it.
All right, thank you so much, sir. You know, I actually was going to ask you further, because you said there are books in the library. All right, there are free information. There are free information on the internet. All right, but when I look back at my story, all right, and I am in love with the quotation you said. The story of every great man lies in his book, right?
In their stories, yeah.
Yeah. So I want to make reference to somebody like me. When I was growing up, there was no. The only library in my town. Let me not say village. In my town is the one in my secondary school. All right.
Yeah.
And it is very, very much limited. All right. The library in my town was very, very, very limited, and so if you're saying that somebody like me then should have developed myself, I would have said, okay, what about my limitations? I mean, and I did not have access to, I did not have any kind of access at all to a computer set or a phone, all right, or internet until I was graduating from higher institution.
Yep.
What would you say to somebody like that?
Well, like I said, I made some specific sentences. I said we must leave our comfort zone. We must stretch a little bit. We must break beyond the boundaries and the limit. Now, first of all, the greatest limit are not even those ones that you're talking about. The greatest limits are the ones that are in our mind. And that was why I emphasized it. If you set your mind at it, your life will move in the direction of your dominant thoughts. Okay? If your mind is set at it, that is the first thing. There might not be libraries, there might not be library even in the town where you live. There might not even be newspaper. There might not even be airplanes flying, across the sky and all that. But believe me, if you set your mind at it, somehow, we may not know how, but what we know is that it is possible. You know, if you set your mind at it, somehow, nature, the universe will reward you. Okay? If you put your mind at it and if you begin to walk towards it, somehow you're going to stumble on it. Absolutely, no matter how small the town is or the city is, there would be a story of one man that is successful. I mean, that I can assure you. There will always be a story. Someone will say, oh, that guy across the street is a successful man. That might just be the person you need to talk to. It might just be your first connecting dots. Okay? So I think the essence and the most important thing of what we are saying is that, you know, if we have a vision, if we have a goal, if we have a dream, if we set our mind at it, we can achieve it, irrespective of the limits or the boundaries that seems, you know, to confront us. We can.
Thank you so much. So I have a personal story that I think I will continue to share, especially to inspire people, to inspire the average youth. And this comes with a lot of price, all right? So it's unfortunate that people want to get good things, but they think it will come free, that it will come easy. So the point here is that it's not going to be easy. it's not going to be cheap at all. All right. So it's going to be very, very expensive. In fact, it will cost you. So you talk about vision. People that have vision, there are people that can run in the desert where there is no water, where there is no any form of living thing, and they will still continue. So when I, for instance, when I got the information that brought me where I am right now, I was already an adult. Okay, so and I just look at the fact that I cannot, it is not possible for me to have access to those wealth of information and not do anything with it. Right? Now, this means that, just like you said, that people said universe, but I say God. All right? That God will orchestrate situations. He will bring people your way. People who will influence you. Just like you said, no matter how poor, no matter how crude your village is or where you live is, there will be somebody that his story can inspire you. And I love that.
Absolutely. I think again, it's a question, like you said, there's always a price. It's a question of, discipline also. How far are you willing to go in pursuit of that goal and that dream? And there has to be discipline. There has to be discipline, because if you're not willing to stretch yourself, if you're willing to just remain, where you are, then it will be difficult. And that's why there's a formula in my book called the change formula. And I think that specifically addressed this kind of situation. It says, for you to change any circumstance in your life, it doesn't matter how bad it is, there's just one key, and this is the key. And it's an equation which is D multiplied by V multiplied by V greater than C. Now, where D is dissatisfaction with your status quo. Okay? You become very dissatisfied with your status quo. Now, that propels you to have a vision. So D multiplied by V. Okay? Now, having vision, it doesn't end there. Even though you are in a small town where there are no possibilities, as it were, but then you now need to add to the vision practical steps. By the time you add your D multiplied by V multiplied by V, now it must be greater than the cost of the change or whatever obstacle that will come your way. And I think that sums it up all. That sums it up all. Yes.
Thank you so much. And because of this illustration that you've made now, I'm going to give another practical example of some of the things that I did previously, in just about 3-4 years ago. See, because a lot of people, for instance, in Africa right now, they say, oh, there is no internet, we don't have access to internet. And I quite agree. Like what we are doing now, a lot of people from Africa might not be able to benefit from it. In fact, one of our speakers tonight was supposed to be joining us from Nigeria, but he couldn't because of the internet. Even though he is in a big hotel, we was supposed to have a Wi-Fi network, but unfortunately, he texted me that there was a power interruption. So because of that, it was disconnected and all of that.
Yeah.
So see, I said I was going to make practical examples of some of the things that I did personally. And one of them was that when I was working in Abu Dhabi, I will go and download messages. I would download speeches. I mean, things that I want to listen to. But because of my job, I was not permitted to have such time, maybe 1 hour, 2 hours, to say I want to sit down and watch a video or listen to a particular talk. So what I do is I download it, all right? Download it and compress it so that the space it takes on my phone is not so large compared with the original with the original size of it. So I put it in my phone. So while I am working, I have my headset on, all right? And I am listening. I don't see the video, but I just the audio, all right? I'm listening to it even as I walk.
Yeah.
And so this is how I was self-educating myself.
Yeah.
That's how I keep abreast with some of the information on that was circulating in the world, because I don't want to be an ignorant person.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Every youth needs to be able to find a way to do that. I was talking to somebody in Nigeria about 2 days ago. I told the person that there is free Wi-Fi at the house. Somebody who lives in that do it. Go to Cocoa House.
Yeah.